So let's bring in Helima Croft, Global Head of Commodity Strategy at RBC Capital Markets. She is also a CNBC contributor. She's right now in Abu Dhabi. You're in the region. Things are relaxing a bit now. Can we expect that to continue, given what we know about Iran and the United States?
I think tensions between the United States and Iran are going to remain fraught following the killing of Soleimani. Yes, the missile strikes that we saw on Monday seem designed by the Iranians as a show of force, but to avoid triggering U.S. military retaliation. So we don't expect any more formal Iranian retaliation in terms of missiles. What we are looking at potentially, though, is Iran continuing to use proxy groups to try to put pressure on the United States. Iran remains under crippling economic sanctions, and as long as these sanctions persist, I expect extreme tension between the U.S. and Iran going forward.
All right, so there have been crippling economic sanctions in play for quite some time now. President Trump announced yesterday that they're going to put even more sanctions on them. So what exactly is going to happen with Iran, its economy, its oil, given the fact that all of this stuff is happening? There has to be increased tension, but what does that lead to outside of the proxy wars that they've been fighting?
Besides the proxy wars, I think what you want to be looking at is what do they do potentially in terms of their nuclear program. They announced last week that they were basically going to abandon any curbs on their enrichment activities under the 2015 nuclear agreement. What we want to be watching now is how quickly do they accelerate this nuclear restart? Do they start enriching uranium at 20% levels? That's close to weapons-grade uranium. The biggest move Iran could make that would be most worrisome would be if they withdrew from the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. That is a big red line, not only for the United States, but also for the Israelis. So the nuclear program remains something everybody has to watch. And these economic sanctions have already caused significant protests in Iran. And so from the standpoint of the leadership, I don't think they believe they have infinite amount of time to remain under sanctions. I think they will be looking to secure sanctions relief in the near term, hence why I think we're still in for rocky relations between the U.S. and Iran and more unrest in the Middle East.
Do you think, though, Helima, that truncated timeline that they may be dealing with now makes them really want to accelerate their ambitions on the nuclear side of things? We heard President Trump saying that he wants to call on folks like European powers, also Russia and China, to relook at that JCPOA, the nuclear agreement in place. Is there any hope that there can be a new nuclear agreement that gets put into place?
I think if the United States was to put significant sanctions relief on the table, potentially front-loading some sanctions relief, they could get the Iranians back to the table. But in the wake of the Soleimani killing, the fact that the United States is adding to the sanctions pressure, I think is going to deter the supreme leader from Iran of wanting to sit down and talk to Washington. He remains the ultimate authority, the ultimate arbiter on the nuclear program. And so, again, I think he's going to be looking for something more fulsome from the United States in terms of economic relief.
All right. And lastly, before we let you go, rising oil prices are good for U.S. producers as well. Does the U.S. stand to benefit because of the tensions?
From the standpoint of the shale patch, it's not only been increased geopolitical tensions that have been beneficial in terms of oil price, it has also been the 2.1 million barrel a day OPEC cut that has been beneficial for them. So we do have a situation where U.S. shale producers have been impacted positively to a certain extent from what is going on in this region and with OPEC.